Hello and welcome to this week's 4Ps podcast. You know, I am wearing I want to thank the country of Canada right off the bat. We are in Asheville, North Carolina. The last 2 weeks, weather-wise, is not what I paid for. Now, I know I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, and I should be toughing it out and stuff like that, but why did I move down here? I moved down here because I wanted a little bit warmer weather. Now, I will say this, that the weather in Asheville, it does snow in Asheville. Yes, it does. We're in the mountains. But usually I would say the average temperature in the wintertime is about 35, 45 degrees, somewhere in that span. I could deal with that. That is good to go. Matter of fact, later on this week, it will be getting back into that type of weather. And again, like I said, for winter, I appreciate it. Do I like snow? Yes, I do. Do I like snow all the time? Not anymore. I'm way too old to be dealing with snow all the time, and that's just the way it is. I don't want it anymore. But I'm not going to be talking about this. Oh, and let me tell you a little bit about this. This is I got this at this is called Canada Weather Gear. I got this at like this shop. I forgot the name of it. It was in, and I'm going to give these guys a little bit of credit here. It was at the Penn Centre Mall in St. Catharines, Ontario. And I will tell you this right now, this quarter zip sweatshirt is probably something that you could probably wear in 25-degree weather outside and not have to have a jacket on. It is really good. Now you're saying, why am I wearing this inside? Well, I'm going to tell you, my studio is downstairs. It is way downstairs in a dungeon. And so sometimes you might hear a hum. I know a couple times I've listened and I hear a hum. That is a space heater. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a space heater, and that's what I'm going to be rolling with that for a little bit here in February. Now, other than having cold weather in February is also Black History Month. And, we celebrate all of the, Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King. We celebrate Shirley Chisholm, who actually, she did die in Williamsville, New York. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she's buried in Buffalo. I don't remember too well, but Shirley Chisholm, if you don't know who she is, she's a trailblazer. She's the first female that actually ran for president of the United States for a major party. She was a congresswoman from Harlem. She was a trailblazer, to say the least. Also, we have tons of people that we do talk about. We talk about black businessmen, black businesswomen. We talk about politicians. We talk about doctors, civil rights advocates, and all these other things. They are celebrated during this year, or during this month during Black History Month in the month of February. One thing that I want to tell you today, and this is my guest. We talk about all of these people who started, the move towards equality here in the United States. We really don't talk about the people who actually did it. They took advantage of it. They took it to the next step. And today I have a guest on. I admire this woman. Very much. Her name is Dr. Carolyn Brooks Collins, and she is a woman who blazed a trail for so many women and women of color back in the 70s and 80s. I listened to her story. I talk to her now. She's got nothing but authority in her voice, and she is a true leader. She is somebody that if you are looking for a role model, this is somebody you need. She has raised a family. She is now, quote unquote, retired. And I'm going to say, quote unquote, retired because she's not retired. She's still doing some stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit about what she's doing now, especially with her Fearlessly Confident Women, her movement. And that is a movement. I know that she calls it, a course. She calls it all these other things, but it is clearly a movement. When we come back, we are going to be talking to Dr. Carolyn Brooks Collins right after this.
Some fathers teach you how to stand tall. Others teach you how to survive. In Lessons from My Father, Dr. Trunnis Goggins II confronts the legacy of a powerful, complicated man and the truths no one talks about. This is a story of discipline and damage, loyalty and fear, love that left scars. Because sometimes the hardest lesson is understanding the man who made you. Lessons from My Father. Available now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and anywhere you buy books.
Welcome back to the 4Ps Podcast. Every single episode that I always have people that I admire. And so when I bring these people onto my program, I'm bringing them on so you can get the same energy I get from these individuals. Today I have Dr. Carolyn Brooks Collins. She, I've never seen her in person, but we live probably 2.5 to 3 hours away from each other, if I'm not mistaken. You're in the Atlanta area, correct?
I am in Atlanta.
Wow. Now, are you originally from Atlanta?
No, I grew up in the mid-Atlantic area, Washington, D.C., Maryland suburbs, and then lived in upstate New York, lived in the New Jersey, New York metropolitan area. But I have been in Atlanta over 30 years, so it's home.
It is. So now so I'm going to have to ask you a question now, since you lived in the Northeast like I did. Now, you lived in Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, whatever. We'll say it's all in the same spot. Who has the better pizza?
The better pizza?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, New York.
By far. Well, I will say this. Yeah. New York has good pizza. Buffalo, New York, it's different. Buffalo, New York pizza is different. As a matter of fact, they have what's called the cup and char. Okay? So it's cup and char. They cut the pepperoni a little thicker. So what it does is it cups a little bit, and then you get a little char on top if you do it right. Sometimes you can burn the pizza, and that makes me mad. But you get a little cup and char on top, and then the grease from the pepperoni goes into the little pepperoni bowl, and you by the time you get finished eating, you got grease all, but it's good. It's good. It's not the healthiest thing in the world, but it is delicious, to say the least.
Well, clearly, I've not experienced that. I lived in Rochester, New York, and I've been to Buffalo.
Yeah.
But I have never had this pizza the way you've described it.
Oh,
but it sounds delicious.
So in Rochester, what did you do in Rochester?
I worked for Eastman Kodak Company
for
ultimately 12 years, but I lived in Rochester off and on, 2 years the first time, then 5 years. But I worked as an auditor. And then for a short period of time, I worked in consumer sales and got experience. And I think that helped me be a little bit more outgoing, that experience in sales, but worked for Eastman Kodak Company for 12 years. Sort of not quite in their heyday, but just as things were beginning to change. In fact, a promotion for my spouse at the time, who also worked for Kodak, is what brought us to Atlanta.
Wow. Okay. Fantastic. So you've had a very interesting life. You've had a very successful life. Has it always been like that for you?
No, and I will be quite honest. It's only looking at myself through the eyes of others that I finally recognized that, I was successful, because I did not feel that way for quite a long time. And so I think now, in retrospect, yes, I did things that women weren't doing back in the 70s.
Right.
And it really has taken other people talking to me about, oh no, look, you were a trailblazer. You did this, you did that. And I thought, okay, I have accomplished a lot of things, particularly for a woman who was in business, who started out in the late 70s and 80s, who was in management and working in a corporate environment. That just didn't happen for a lot of women.
It didn't, and it really didn't happen for a lot of black women back then. It just didn't. So here we are, Carolyn. You started back in the 70s, and I want to put this in perspective to anybody listening to this program. In the United States of America, women were not even allowed to have credit cards until 1975, 4, something like that. Is that correct?
I'm thinking it was even later.
Yeah.
It was after I had graduated from college. I'm thinking, yes, it may have. I don't want to misspeak, but I was thinking it was like early 80s, 84, that you couldn't have credit or accounts in your name. You were only in your spouse's name. You were Mrs. John Doe.
Yeah.
That went on for a very long time.
So now you, in spite of all of the obstacles, so here you are, you're a woman, you are a minority, you're in the 70s and 80s. Now, I'm going to say this, I'm not trying to sit there and say, oh my gosh, it was horrible back then. I grew up back then as well. I was a kid. But it was a lot different back then. There were a lot of obstacles that women had to go through. There were a lot of obstacles that minorities had to go through. So just being a woman, period, you had a strike against you. And now you have another strike against you because you're a minority.
Absolutely.
What was going through your mind at that time?
Do you know, these are things that I've reflected on recently. I was just trying to get ahead. I didn't have big dreams. I'd said, yep, I'm going to do the best that I can. And in my own way, I actually spoke out when the opportunity presented itself. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really thinking about, I need to accept these. And the case in point is when I first started working, I found out that the men were making more money than I was. And these were I was the only person of color, the only woman on our management team in the accounting department. And, the guys were just talking, and I found out they made more money. And I went into our controller, and I just said, yes, Tom and Bill, they're making more money than I am. Why? And the controller gave me this incredulous look and said, you make a great salary for a woman. You can't possibly expect to make the same amount as Bill, and I can't think of the other guys, but he said they have families to take care of. Now, mind you, the two gentlemen that I referenced didn't have children. Their wives were stay-at-home wives. They didn't have children. They were homemakers. But I thought we had the same bills. We had the same, struggles. But I just sat there and said, okay, I'll accept that now, because I knew it was going to be an uphill battle. So my goal then was, I'm not going to give them an excuse based on my work and my performance.
Okay.
So I just kept working hard. But I think about it now. I was actually sharing that story in a presentation I did where that was really unusual. It's like, how dare I have the nerve, the audacity to ask for the same salary? But that was quite commonplace then.
Right.
So there are things that I didn't see it as a barrier. And I think back now to say, I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't think, you're a black woman, you can't ask. So there are times I kept quiet, but there were times when, without thinking, I questioned the status quo. Mm-hmm. And I'm quite proud of that, but it wasn't consistent. I didn't consistently do that. But yes, times were very different then.
It was, and they were different, yet they're still the same. Okay,
Yes.
You still see they were different. They were much different then when your human resource director can come out and blatantly tell you that a man should be making more money than you because you don't have as many responsibilities. All right, if that were to happen right now, any human, even if they believe that, they better not say it because they're going to get in some trouble. However, just because they can't say it doesn't mean they don't believe it and they don't still do it.
Right.
What would you tell a woman in 2026 America, or just 2026 Western civilization, period? How should they handle something like that?
I believe it starts with women feeling and knowing that they are worthy of the same pay, that this is their right, that they're not asking for something that it's some special entitlement, that women have to understand their worth and Go for it, ask the question, raise the question. Do not give them, anyone, manager, a reason to say no based on your performance. I mean, you still have to do the job, but question any inequality, any example, anything that occurs. Do not be afraid to question it and ask what you rightfully deserve. And those are things that were not commonplace. You were just expected to accept the status quo. But in 2026, absolutely not. No, go for it. Be prepared for the negative answer. Be prepared for some type of retribution, I mean, however subtle, but go for it. Don't be afraid. That would be my message, is don't be afraid.
You know, there was and I'm bringing up a movie, Rocky Balboa. It was the very last Rocky where Rocky was fighting. And Rocky told his son, if you know what you're worth, go out and get what you're worth. But you've got to learn to take the hits. And that's basically what you said. If you know what you're worth, go out and get what you're worth. But you're going to get pushback. You're going to get pushback because, well, you don't need as much money because you got a husband working. Or you don't need as much money because the neighborhood that you live in. Or you don't need as much money, and I hate to bring this up, you don't need this much money because people like you don't usually get as much money as you're getting now. Okay, and you know you get all that, right? You know, it's a, you know, you should be happy just to be here.
Exactly.
And that is not the case. And I love what you just said. If you know what you're worth, don't ever let someone tell you what you're worth.
Absolutely.
You know? And that's a beautiful thing to say. So you have gone throughout the entire Midwest. You have a wonderful spouse now. Your birthday just passed recently, and I saw you on Facebook, you know, eating. And I have to read. What were you eating at that restaurant?
Oh goodness! It's a steak and a seafood restaurant, but the picture, I think it was probably the dessert. It was just like a creme brulee that they provided to help celebrate.
Looked beautiful. It looked wonderful.
It was a beautiful, beautiful decor. It was a wonderful restaurant. And somewhat local to us because we've been all over that area, and it's in downtown Lawrenceville. But we've never seen it, have never heard of it. We just have never walked on that end of the block. And there were like 4 or 5 restaurants there that we've never explored. So it was a great find for us.
You know, I'm going to bring this up, and you're never supposed to bring this up for a woman. Obviously, if people are watching this on YouTube, you would not think that this woman here, Carolyn, worked in the 70s, maybe going to school in the 70s, but not worked in the 70s, that's for sure, and 80s. So I'm looking at it now, 70s and 80s. I graduated in 1989, and I am closing in very fast on my 40th high school reunion, closing in real fast. So I'm going to say this. We know that you are at the retirement age, but you are not retired by any means necessary. You are not retired. You are still pushing along. You're still doing things. You're modeling. You are doing so many different things out there in the world. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because your life and your adventure ends at your last breath. I could tell that that's your philosophy just by looking at you. All right? When you stop breathing, that's when you stop doing. And you are even doing things right now to help other women who are now taking that transition. All right? Tell us what you're doing right now to help others.
Well, you know, as a woman who really didn't find her voice until much later in life, and after carrying a lot of responsibility and navigating, really putting everyone else first in my life, I have created the Fearlessly Confident Women's Coaching Program because I want other women to kind of really step into their confidence, clarify their goals, and have some financial independence much earlier than I did. You know, I formally retired from my professional life as an auditor, when I was 68, but probably around 67, I started thinking about what's my next step. And that's when I started exploring other opportunities, because I had really never given myself permission to really think beyond the immediate need. I was in, and I've said this to so many times, I was in survival mode. What was the next step? I needed to always have a roof over my head, be able to provide more for myself. But then I thought, all right, if I'm blessed to live as long as my dad, who passed away at 100, I thought, all right, you've got at least 30 more years here.
Roger
what
that.
are you going to do? And I just started exploring opportunities, started dreaming again, thinking about what was possible. So I started doing, as you mentioned, I started taking acting classes. I started one, I wanted to take care of my health, but I started acting classes. I started writing. I knew that I wanted to help women kind of take control of their lives. I say that I want women to be in control of their lives, personally, professionally, and financially, because I feel using my background as an auditor and as a CPA, I can help other women just have some practical knowledge. And so I am excited that I am now coaching women. I really was trying, you're trying to niche it down, and is it women over 50? Because I'm thinking of myself, but I realized this is advice that all women need, young women, older women, and I'm really just speaking to women to say, it is okay to put yourself first, to give yourself permission to put yourself first and start dreaming again.
Wow.
That life doesn't end just because you reach a certain age, or maybe you've had some past failures, you explored opportunities and they didn't work out. That it doesn't mean you shut down and just kind of go down a path that someone else has created for you. I feel women need to raise the expectations in their lives.
Absolutely. And you know what? And for somebody like you who has really, and you're a trailblazer, and the obstacles, how to navigate the obstacles. I'm not trying to downplay the obstacles that are going on with women in 2026, but the walls were a hell of a lot higher in 1976 than they are in 2026. They just are, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's for anybody. So if you, Carolyn, know how to scale that wall from 1976, you are really going to help somebody in 2026 be able to scale their wall. Go ahead.
I'd like to think so, because yes, the world is crazy now. Women still have, there are still issues with inequity, there's still issues with diversity, but nothing like it was in the 70s and 80s or even 90s.
Yeah.
And that women have to realize there are still opportunities here, and there is no reason for them to think small, to dull their shine, to hide their abilities, or have someone else decide what they can or can't do. And that's whether that's in a work environment or even in their home environment.
That's right.
To have a family member, significant other, define their limits. And I see that still happens day in and day out, when people really question, who do you think you are? What makes you think you can do that? And I'm thinking, why not? Why not you? Why not? Why? That's what you have to say. And if does it work out? Okay. You didn't fail, you learned. You learn from that experience. And the next time you try it or do something similar or something different, you'll be less afraid to do it. For me, it's having the confidence to try, to think outside of the box, to think of new experiences, but more importantly, for women to believe they deserve it and they are worth going through that effort.
You're going to have a class. You're going to have a virtual class coming up very soon, mid-February. Can you tell everybody in my audience what that class is and how we can go about getting to it?
So my class, it's my Fearlessly Confident Women's Coaching Program. It is an 8-week course on Zoom. You can register on my website at carolynbrookscollins.com. But it is 8 weeks of exploring who you are and helping you to reclaim your voice. It's based on 4 pillars where women can reclaim their power. They build confidence and maybe get some clarity around their goals and their purpose. Mm-hmm. But there are modules there on financial freedom, helping women understand just the basics about money. It's not teaching you how to invest or doing anything like that, but it's the other pillar is just having that community. I feel that confidence is contagious, and when you are around other women who are encouraging you, who are helping, who are finding their own confidence, then you, just from sheer being as part of that community, you also will enhance and improve your confidence. So I am excited for this next cohort, and I think that women are going to enjoy the experience.
Absolutely they are. Absolutely they are. Carolyn, thank you for being a part of this program today. You've enlightened us big time. And again, like I said, and I'm going to go right back to this, and this is not Carolyn's quote. This is a quote that I got from a movie in 2020, whatever. But if you know what you're worth, go out and get what you're worth. Obviously, Dr. Carolyn Brooks Collins knows exactly what she's worth. And now she's trying to show you what you're worth as well. She's trying to help you know what you're worth. I shouldn't say that, show you what you're worth. She's trying to help you know exactly what you're worth. Dr. Carolyn, thank you very much for being on the program. And we will be right back right after this.
Thank you so much.
Every story begins with a truth. Some stories are meant to inspire. Some are meant to heal. All deserve to be heard. At Veritas Publishing House, we bring truth to life through the written word. At Veritas, we guide authors from vision to visibility with purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. This is more than just publishing. It's legacy. Veritas Publishing House, publishing truth, inspiring purpose.
And welcome back to the 4Ps podcast. Welcome back to the frigid 4Ps podcast. And I don't care where you are in North America right now, it is cold. I was talking to a friend of mine who was on this show before. Her name is Jennifer Jensen. She lives in Calgary. And I was talking to her, and when I was talking to her, it was like 15 degrees in Asheville, North Carolina. She's in Calgary, so I'm assuming, Calgary is cold. And I said, hey, what's the temperature there? And she says it's 10 degrees. Now, they say 10 degrees, it's 10 degrees Celsius. So that means it was 50 degrees. And I was talking to her in the morning, and I was kind of mad, okay? So I want you to think about this. When I was talking to her, and she said it was 50 degrees, I pulled up just to see what was going on. It was like 27 degrees in Tampa, Florida. So it was warmer in Calgary, Alberta, than it was in Tampa, Florida this week. I just want you to know it's on the record that if you know what, all you guys are wasting your money going. I'm joking when I say this, all right? I'm not, everybody in Florida is like, I hate you now. No, I'm not saying that. But at that moment, you were wasting your money getting that summer home down in Florida. Now you're not. I know you're not, so don't worry about it. Go back to Florida. So if you went to Calgary for the day, go back to Florida today or now. But going back to Dr. Carolyn Brooks, again, she was a trailblazer. One thing that she said during this interview that really struck me, and it stuck with me, she found out she wasn't getting paid as much as everybody else in the office was. It happens, okay? It happens a lot. I want you to know that when I said that just now, I bet you it struck a nerve in people listening to this podcast. I want you to know that you can do exactly what Carolyn Brooks Collins did. you can absolutely go in and demand, why is this the case? I'm going to tell you a story. And this really aggravates me a little bit because I should have done what Dr. Carolyn Brooks Collins did as well. You know, I got my PhD. I got my PhD in business from Walden University. Great college, I will tell you that. A great university, I will tell you that. It's a great university for working people, and that's what it's there for. And they have great programs, and they're just a phenomenal college. I do appreciate that college. But anyway, I moved up in the ranks of a college that I used to work for, and I moved up into a position of administration. And I got a job offer, this, that, and the other. And here I am, a PhD and all this other stuff. I'm thinking, I command a certain salary. I took the job because of the position. The pay, I had other stuff going on, so I wasn't really too worried about the pay. Just recently, or actually I shouldn't say just recently, it was a while ago. It was a public college, so they have public salaries are very public. And I pull up and I found out the person that replaced me, who did not have as much education as I did, made a lot more money than I did. And, I'm not trying to bring up race or anything else like that, but I am going to bring up race and everything else like that in this certain situation. I do believe that plays a factor. It does. I don't know if it's intentional or if it's a bias, if it's an unconscious bias or something like that, but it does play a factor. Women do get paid less than men in a lot of positions, and that is horrible. And people of color get paid less than people who are not of color. That's just been the case for a long time. And sometimes I don't think that, again, like I said, I don't think human resource people, I don't know. I mean, there is pay inequity in this world. And I'm not saying that, oh my gosh, we got to go march. I'm not saying that right now. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, it is a reality. It is a reality. I don't want to make anybody, oh my gosh, here he is talking this liberal bullshit. No, that's not what I'm doing. Okay? What I am talking about right now is this is a fact. You can go and you could pull all this up. There are pay inequities. And I think that everybody should get paid for what they do, and they should get paid for what they deserve. I'm going to say this, though, and this is what I'm going to say. So if I made one side wrong or mad, I'm going to make another side mad right now. A lot of people, I see a lot of people, out there and they go out there with their goody two shoes. We hear you. We hear you. We hear you. Yes, I hear a lot of things, but am I listening? You do hear a lot of things, but are you listening? Okay? Probably the answer is no. You think that just because you hear somebody, you're recognizing them, and now you feel good about yourself. And that should not ever be the case. The fact of the matter is if you do hear someone, stop and listen. And if you do that, I'm going to tell you, this is what's going to happen. There will be pay equity, equality. I shouldn't say equity. I should say equality. There will be pay equality. And people will get paid for what they earn. It is a shame that, and my father used to tell me this growing up. He said, you're going to have to work 10 times harder than your counterpart in order to get as far as they did. Okay? And you know what? A lot of times that is true. But what I love about what Carolyn Brooks Collins did is she proved to her HR department that, yes, I do work 10 times harder and I do deserve the right pay. And the excuses that they gave them, it was horrible. Well, you got somebody else helping you. And I'm pretty sure, again, like I said, that's that unconscious bias coming in. Right? Where you're going to assume that, well, you're a woman and you don't really need that money because you got a man taking care of you at home. That is crap. That is crap all the way across the board. Just because you got somebody else coming in there should not be a factor in your salary. What should be a factor in your salary is what your education is, what your motivation is, what your loyalty and your commitment to the mission is. Those are things that should be a factor. It doesn't matter what you could sit there and you could be a multimillionaire. You could have hit the lottery. It doesn't matter. You should get paid less than someone else who's doing something, maybe even not doing as much as you. That is horrible. So what I'm saying right now, I'm not saying go into your, there'll be a whole bunch of people fired now since I just said this, but I'm going to tell you this. You should say, hey, what's going on? You should question. You should question that. And if they give you a lame answer, guess what? The job market is full of jobs right now. You can go and find another one. Now, it might take you a little while, and don't sit there and quit right on the spot. You may have to wean yourself off the job you are, but don't ever, ever settle for something that you don't deserve. And what I mean by that is going back to, and I say this all the time, Rocky Balboa had the greatest speech in the movie Rocky Balboa. If you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. Okay? Now, he also finished that with, but you've got to learn to take the hits. So, I'm going to tell you right now, when I found out what was going on at my job, where I was getting paid, I left. And I did take the hits. But if I didn't leave that position, I wouldn't be where I am today. Okay? What I'm saying is now I'm getting what I'm worth. And I'm having a really good time doing it. Okay? Go out and get what you're worth. But you got to learn and you've got to know you're going to be taking some hits. I think that is the greatest thing I ever heard in any movie ever, was when he said that. I think that, I know he was talking to his son in the movie, but he was literally talking to everybody out there. If you know what you're worth, go out to get what you're worth, but you got to learn to take the hits. Dr. Carolyn Brooks Collins is definitely a trailblazer. She is also someone that I'm proud of. She's somebody that if I had to, I would put her in front of my daughters as being an example of what you need to do in corporate, what you need to do in family, and just what you need to do in general. She is a great person. She's a great example, a great person to follow. And you know what? What I love about starting this podcast month with Dr. Carolyn Brooks Collins is that is what so many people before us marched and lost their lives for, is to live the dream that Dr. Carolyn Brooks is living, that is lived. And that is something that we have to do. If you know there are people, and this is another thing I'm going to say, and I don't know if I'm talking to everybody. I'm not just talking to blacks. I'm talking to everybody. If you knew the sacrifices that were laid out before you, if you truly knew what your parents did, what teachers did, what community leaders did, what your ancestors did, to get to where you are today, you would take positive advantage of your resources. Now, when I'm saying that, there are probably somebody in here listening, my parents didn't do anything. Then skip them and see what the community leaders did and take advantage of it. That's where success comes. Walk through the doors that were open for you. And if you do that, you are going to be successful. Dr. Carolyn Brooks, through her work and everything, she opened doors for a lot of people. And I'm sure there are people at the industries and the companies that she worked at before that end up getting a chance because Dr. Carolyn Brooks showed them, or showed the people, the decision makers, what can happen if you have somebody like her in a position to make a difference in their organization. Next week, we are going to be talking about supplements. Yes, we got to stay healthy, man. We got to stay healthy, and we are going to have a phenomenal guest on next week. Yes, they're from Australia, and I'm going to tell you, when I went to Australia, when I landed in Sydney, when I went there, what was amazing was the level of health that people, or the focus on health that people had in Sydney, Australia. Healthy people, man, and they had really good food, really healthy. You would eat, it's not like when we eat here, we get all, bleh, you didn't feel that at all. It was fantastic. And so I'm going to bring somebody in here next week to help you with that. I will talk to you next week. Until then, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Purpose isn't something you find once and forget. It's something you choose every single day.
In 2026, how are you living with purpose? The 4Ps podcast invites you to write about the steps you're taking to pursue, sustain, or rediscover your purpose this year. Share the habits you're building, the mindset shifts you're making, the lessons that are shaping your direction. Your words could inspire thousands and be featured on the 4Ps podcast. One winner will receive a signed copy of the 4Ps of You, exclusive 4Ps gear, and official recognition across all 4P platforms. Write with clarity, write with courage, write with purpose. Because purpose isn't discovered once, it's reaffirmed daily.